Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It really helps YouTube recommend more stories like this one to you. All right, let's jump right in. The second time I walked past cabin 839 and it was gone, I felt something tighten in my chest, like a hand squeezing just hard enough to stop me from breathing right. I wasn't imagining it. I knew I'd seen it there before. First night on board, walking back from dinner, I remember the brass numbers on the dark wood door, 39 next to the stairwell. I even remember the do not disturb sign swinging from the handle like someone had just walked in before I passed. But now, there was nothing. Just a blank stretch of hallway. The space where the cabin had been was too wide, too smooth. The wallpaper didn't match, like it had been patched over, recently, hastily. I stopped right in the middle of the hall staring. I wasn't drunk. I hadn't been drinking, and I sure as hell wasn't sleep-deprived. This was supposed to be my relaxation trip. I'd saved for months for this cruise. Picked it on purpose because it was one of those disconnected types. No Wi-Fi unless you paid. No social media influencers shoving cameras in your face, no families with screaming kids. Mostly older passengers. Quiet, but this made my stomach twist. I turned around and retraced my steps. Back toward the stairwell, counted the doors. 831, 833, 835, 837. Then it jumped to 841, no 839. It was just gone. I told myself it didn't matter. Maybe I miscounted. Maybe I was thinking of the other side of the ship. Port versus starboard or whatever. I didn't know ship lingo. Still, back in my room, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I even opened my phone to check the photo I'd taken on the first night. I'd been filming a little walkthrough of the hallway to show my sister. She always teased me for being paranoid and recording everything when I traveled alone, but now I was grateful for the habit. I scrubbed through the video, hallway, wall sconce, 833, 835, 37, there it was. 39 clear as day, brass numbers on the door, same place I remembered, but I'd just been there and it was missing. I replayed the clip 3 times. I zoomed in on the door. There was even a little scuff mark on the bottom right like something had scraped the paint. My hand went cold. The next morning, I stopped by the front desk. I didn't want to sound crazy, so I played dumb. "Hey," I said to the woman at guest services. "Quick question, but I'm meeting someone on deck 8 and I forgot the room number. I think it was 839, but now I can't find it. Can you check if that cabin exists?" She frowned slightly. Clicked a few keys. "I'm sorry, sir, there's no cabin 839 on this vessel." I blinked. "Wait, what?" She rotated the monitor slightly to show me the deck plan. 831, 833, 835, 837, then 841. No 839, that's not right, I said, quieter now. "I saw that door." She gave me a tight, polite smile. "Sometimes the numbering skips due to structural layout. I assure you there's never been a cabin 839. My throat dried up. I didn't say anything else. That night, I walked the hallway again. I tried to act casual, just wandering like I couldn't sleep. I passed the same stretch where 839 had been. Still nothing. But when I pressed my palm against the wall where the door should have been, I swear, it felt hollow. Like there was space behind it. The wallpaper felt newer, less aged than the surrounding walls. Like it had been applied recently just to cover something. I knocked. Lightly. The sound came back. Different. Like there was air behind the wall. A room. I pulled back quickly when I heard someone coming up the stairs. A crew member in a blue polo. He glanced at me, then the wall, then gave me a weird half-smile and kept walking. That was the first night I had the dream. I was standing in that hallway again. But this time the lights were dim, flickering like they do in cheap horror movies. The hallway felt longer. The carpet under my feet was soaking wet. My socks squished with every step, and at the end of the corridor, the door to cabin 839 stood wide open, a black void inside. I couldn't see a single thing beyond the threshold. No light, no furniture, just pitch darkness and something breathing, slow, shallow breaths. Not mine. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Then in the dream, I stepped forward, toward the door, toward that awful black space. And as I crossed the threshold, I saw my own reflection staring back at me in the darkness. Mouth open, bleeding from the nose, eyes completely black. I woke up gasping. The sheets were soaked with sweat. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might have a panic attack. I grabbed my phone. 3:42 a.m. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. By day 4, I was obsessed. I tried talking to other passengers casually, asking if they remembered cabin 839. Nobody did. Not a single person recalled it. Even people who should have, like the older woman in 837. I stopped her one morning and asked, "Do you remember who was staying next door to you at the beginning of the cruise?" She looked confused. "Next door? You mean the laundry cart storage? What?" "There's no room next to me," she said firmly. "Just a wall," I forced a laugh. "Are you sure? I could have sworn I saw a door there." She gave me a look. "You must be mistaken." Later that day, I found a crew member cleaning the hallway. A younger guy, maybe early 20s, looked bored, figured he might be less trained in the PR script. "Hey man," I said, keeping it light. "Do you know what happened to cabin 839? He froze, literally froze, mop in hand mid-swipe. Then he forced a smile. "There's no cabin 839, sir." "I know that's what the map says," I replied, "but I saw it. I have video of it." His eyes flicked around like he wasn't supposed to be talking. Then quietly he muttered, "Don't ask about that room." I stepped closer. "Why?" He lowered his voice. "It was sealed 2 years ago. After the incident." "What incident?" But he shook his head. I shouldn't have said anything. He pushed the mop cart fast and walked away, eyes darting nervously toward the stairs. I didn't go back to the hallway that night. Instead, I scrolled through my video again. I froze the frame on 839, zoomed in. That scuff mark. That handle. I took a screenshot. Then, on impulse, I sent it to my sister back home. "Do you see a door in this hallway? Next to 837? She replied a few minutes later. "Yeah?"
He's 39, why?
I felt my whole body tense. Someone else could see it, I replied fast. "It's not there anymore." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No reply, I waited. Still nothing. Then I got a message, but not from her. It was from an unknown number. Just a blank gray bubble. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in the dark watching that message on my phone screen. Stop looking. It didn't have a contact name. No country code, no nothing. Just gray text. I tried calling my sister. Straight to voicemail. For the first time since I boarded, I felt actually afraid. Not of some ghost room, but of something real. Someone on this ship had my number. I turned off my phone and shoved it under my pillow. I told myself I'd go to guest services again in the morning, talk to someone higher up, maybe even the captain. Someone would have to explain it. But then around 2 a.m. I heard it. A knock. 3 soft taps on the wall behind my bed. My room was 841. The wall behind me should have been that sealed space, the one that used to be 839. I froze. Then slowly another 3 knocks. Louder this time, hollow, like there was space behind it. I whispered, "Who's there?" before I even realized what I was doing. Silence. Then, scratching, like fingernails dragging across the wall right behind my headboard. I stumbled out of bed and grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get the flashlight on. The wall looked normal, beige wallpaper, that faint floral pattern like every other cabin. But when I pressed my ear to it, I swear I heard breathing, slow, wet, rhythmic. Someone was behind that wall. The next morning, I went straight to the front desk. I didn't care about looking crazy anymore. I told the woman everything. The door that vanished, the knocking, the message. Her smile froze about halfway through my rant. "Sir, are you feeling all right? Perhaps you'd like to visit our medical center." "I'm not sick," I snapped. "There's someone in that sealed cabin." "You have to check," her smile faltered. "Sir, there is no sealed cabin." She said it carefully this time. Not like a fact, but like a warning. I looked around. There was a man standing near the elevators in a white uniform. "Officer, maybe?" He was watching me. No expression, just watching. "Forget it," I muttered. "I'll prove it myself." That night, I came back with my phone and a butter knife I stole from the buffet. Stupid, yeah, but I needed something to pry the wallpaper. The hallway was dead quiet. Everyone else asleep or drinking in the lounges. I ran my hand along the section where the door should have been. Felt around the edges. The wallpaper bulged slightly in one spot like there was a seam underneath. I dug the knife in. It peeled away easier than I expected, and underneath was wood. Smooth, dark, and painted over. Then I saw it. The faint outline of a brass number plate. 3. 9. My breath hitched. It was real. I pressed my palm to the panel, and it was cold. Colder than the air around me. Then something pressed back, just once, from the other side. A slow, deliberate push against my hand. I jerked away and stumbled down the hall. The next morning, I woke up to find my door unlocked. I never leave it unlocked, ever. My suitcase was open. My clothes were on the floor. Nothing missing, but everything touched, moved. And there was a note under my door, folded once, plain paper, in shaky handwriting. You shouldn't have peeled it. That was it. No signature. I started carrying my phone everywhere, recording everything. Hallways, faces, even my meals. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. On day 6, I finally saw her. A woman, maybe mid-30s, standing by the stairwell at the end of deck 8, wearing a white bathrobe, soaking wet. Her hair hung over her face, dripping onto the carpet. When I got closer, I realized she wasn't moving. Just standing, ma'am, I said, stepping closer. Her head twitched toward me, and I swear to God, her mouth opened just a little, and seawater dribbled out. I blinked, and she was gone. Just gone. No footsteps. No dripping trail. I told myself it was stress. Lack of sleep. Maybe even dehydration. But that night I heard the knocking again. Same pattern. 3 slow knocks. Pause. Then 3 more. I pressed record on my phone and walked up to the wall. "Who are you?" I whispered. For a few seconds, nothing. Then a faint voice, right against the wall. Muffled, but close. "Open it." I stumbled back so fast I tripped over the bed. My phone hit the floor and the flashlight went out. The knocking started again, faster now, more desperate, like fists slamming the other side of the wall. Then, suddenly silence, and from inside the wall, a low, dragging sound, something sliding away. The air went cold enough that I could see my breath. I didn't sleep after that. I just sat on the floor, light on, waiting for sunrise. The next morning, I tried to show the recording to a crew member, a different one this time, an older guy vacuuming the hallway. When I pulled up the video, my stomach dropped. The audio was gone. The whole clip was just static. He glanced at my phone, looked up at me and said quietly, "You shouldn't have talked to her." I froze. "Who?" He turned off the vacuum, looked both ways down the hall, then leaned close. "The woman in 839, she died there 2 years ago. Husband too." My throat tightened. "What happened?" "No one knows for sure," he said. "They said she went missing one night. Husband claimed she went overboard. They never found her body, but passengers kept hearing noises, knocking, crying. After that, they sealed the cabin," I whispered. "But if it's sealed, how can anyone still be in there?" He looked straight at me. "That's the wrong question." That night, I decided to leave. I packed my things, went straight to guest services, demanded to disembark at the next port. They said no, weather conditions. No tenders running. So I went back to my room, and when I opened the door, I froze. The layout was wrong. My bed was on the opposite wall. The window was missing, and the room number above the door read 839. I ran out into the hallway, heart pounding. The numbers outside were normal, 837, 841, but the door behind me definitely said 839. I pounded on the next door. 47. The old woman inside opened it, startled. "What's wrong?" I pointed back. "Look." "My room." She glanced past me. There was just a blank wall, no door, no 839. I felt my stomach drop out from under me. I turned back to her, but she was just staring. Not at me, but through me. Her lips moved. Whispering something, I leaned closer. She was praying. I don't remember much after that. I think I blacked out. When I woke up, I was lying on a cot in the ship's infirmary. A nurse was sitting nearby, clipboard in hand. "You had a fainting spell," she said gently. "Probably exhaustion." I started to speak, but she cut me off. "You were found near the service stairwell," she added. "You shouldn't be down there." "I wasn't near the stairs," I croaked. "I was in my room." Her eyes flicked up sharply. "Which cabin? 8-4?" I hesitated. I couldn't remember. Was it 841? 839? The nurse's expression softened. "You need to rest." That night, they let me go back to my cabin, or what they said was my cabin. I checked the number 3 times before entering. Partially right, normal, but when I got inside, the air was heavy, still, And on the nightstand, my phone, even though I was sure I'd left it in the infirmary, the screen was on. Recording app opened one new audio file, time-stamped for when I'd been unconscious. I hit play, static at first, then faint knocking, 3 slow knocks, then a voice, not mine. A woman's. Wet, whispering, just barely audible. He pushed me. I dropped the phone. The screen went black. The next morning, the cruise line announced we'd be returning to port a day early. Technical reasons, they said. I didn't argue. I packed fast and waited by the gangway for disembarkation. But as we docked, a crew member handed me an envelope. "Found in your cabin, sir." Inside was a photo. Grainy, black and white. Looked old. A woman in a dress smiling on a ship deck. And next to her, a man, me, same face, same eyes, same scar on my chin from high school. My hands started to shake. "What the hell is this?" The crew member frowned. "No idea, sir. We found it behind the headboard." He hesitated. "In cabin 839, I stared at him. "There isn't a cabin 839, he looked down. That's what I thought. I left the ship that day. I told myself I'd never set foot on a cruise again. I even went to therapy, tried to explain it. The missing room, the messages, the voice. But every time I replayed it in my head, I started doubting myself. Maybe I did imagine it. Maybe I dreamed it. Then last week, a package showed up at my apartment. No return address. Inside, a brass door number, 39 and a note. In that same shaky handwriting. The doors open again. Story whispers from the pool. Deck the first night I heard the whispers. I thought it was the wind. I was on deck 12, walking the long stretch past the closed pool and hot tubs. It was nearly 3 a.m. Too late for anyone else to be out, but I couldn't sleep. Couldn't shake the tension that had been following me since we left port. It wasn't the cruise itself. The ship was beautiful, the food was decent, and my room was better than I expected for a last-minute solo ticket. But something about the ocean at night gets under your skin. The silence. The size of it. Like being inside a dream you can't wake up from. That's when I heard it. A faint voice. No, voices, drifting over the empty pool. Whispering. At first I thought maybe some kids were hiding in the hot tub, messing around. But as I walked closer, I realized the voices weren't coming from the deck. They were coming from the pool. The water was still, lit up from beneath with that eerie blue-green glow. It was closed for the night. Had been since 10 p.m., but I swear I heard it. Low murmuring. Like someone talking just below the surface. Like they were drowning but trying to speak. I stood there, frozen. Leaned over the railing. Nothing. Not a ripple. The whispers stopped. The next morning, I convinced myself I imagined it. Ocean noise. My brain playing tricks. But when I mentioned it casually to the bartender later that afternoon, he paused halfway through making my drink. The second I saw the kid sitting in the engine room stairwell, I knew something was wrong. He wasn't supposed to be there. That part of the ship was restricted. No passengers, no casual crew. Just engineers and officers, and yet there he was. Curled up on the metal landing between the lower decks, knees tucked to his chest. Uniform soaked with sweat or seawater. I couldn't tell which. I wasn't even supposed to be down there myself. I was working guest services, 3rd week into a 6-week contract. This was my first cruise job. They don't tell you how much of the ship is off limits. Endless gray hallways, crew-only doors, metal stairwells that go deeper than you think they should. I'd gotten lost trying to find a shortcut back to the laundry chute and ended up way too low on the deck plan. That's when I found him, the boy. He looked maybe 15. 16 tops. Thin, pale, blue crew polo that was a size too big. He didn't flinch when I stepped onto the stairwell platform. "You all right?" I asked. "Nothing. Hey, you hurt or something?" His head turned slowly and his eyes met mine. Bloodshot. Wide and wrong. Not scared. Not tired, just empty. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something, then closed it again. Slowly stood up, I stepped back, hands raised. "Hey, it's okay. Just making sure you're all right. You lost?" He nodded once. "Barely. You know how to get back up to the main deck?" Another slow nod. Then he walked past me. Not fast, not weird, just slow. Straight through the door without looking back. Later that night, I asked one of the housekeeping supervisors if she knew him. Young guy, tall, pale. Think I saw him by the engine stairwell. She frowned. There are no minors on the crew. What? You have to be 18 to work on international waters? That's strict policy, I blinked. No, I'm sure he was crew. Had the polo and everything. She gave me a look. You probably saw a passenger. I was 3 decks below crew housing. She didn't say anything after that. Just turned and walked off. The next morning I filed a report. Told myself it was just in case. Said I saw someone in a restricted area. Looked underage. Might be lost or sick. The safety officer skimmed my form, said, "We'll check security footage." That was it. No follow-up, no thank you, no concern. The next night, I had a nightmare. I was back on the stairwell. Same gray walls, same metal stairs. But the ship felt wrong. Tilted. The kind of slant your brain doesn't register at first, but your stomach does. The boy was there again, sitting in the exact same spot. Only this time, when I got closer, I realized he wasn't wearing a uniform. He was naked. Skin pale blue, like he'd been pulled from the ocean. His lips were moving, mouth opening and closing. Soundless. But I could hear something in my head. He told me to turn it off. Then the light snapped off. And I felt him move, not walk. Not run, just appear right in front of me, face inches from mine. Eyes black. Skin dripping. I woke up choking, not gasping, not sweating, and choking. Like I'd been underwater. My throat burned. My sheets were soaked, but not from sweat. From actual water, the pillow, the mattress, and damp. Like someone poured a bottle over me while I slept. But there was no leak. No spilled glass. Nothing. I was done pretending it was nothing. After breakfast, I pulled aside a guy from the maintenance crew. Big guy, Eastern European accent, quiet. Have you ever seen anyone weird down in the engine decks? Like someone who's not supposed to be there? His face changed. Instantly, he looked around. You saw him? I froze. You know about him? He nodded, slowly. Don't follow him. If he speaks to you, don't listen. Who is he? He was crew. Long time ago. Went into the generator room during a blackout and never came out. What do you mean, never came out? They never found him. That stopped me cold. He continued, voice low. Now when the engines get loud, like when the power surges or flickers, sometimes people see him. Always the same, sitting, watching, waiting. I felt sick. Why? The man looked at me, eyes tired. He says the engine wants to stop. After that conversation, I couldn't get the sound of the engines out of my head. If you've ever worked on a cruise ship, you know it's never really quiet. Even in your cabin, especially if you're near the bottom decks, there's this constant hum, a dull, mechanical heartbeat. Most people tune it out, but once it's in your awareness, it feels like it's inside you. And I swear, after that day, it started getting louder. Every time I walked past a vent, a pipe, a hatch, it was like the whole ship was breathing heavier. Like the engine itself was straining. By day 5, even the guests were noticing it. A couple asked me if there was a problem with the ship. It sounds different at night, they said. Like something's off, I reported it. Engineering said everything was normal. But that same night, I caught a glimpse of him again. The boy, same stairwell, same posture. Except this time, I wasn't alone when I saw him. I was with Luis, another guest services rep. We'd just finished our shift and decided to cut through the service corridor to avoid the crowded elevators. As we turned the corner toward the emergency stairwell, I stopped dead. There he was, sitting halfway down the metal stairs, staring straight ahead. Luis bumped into me. What's wrong? Look, I whispered, pointing. Luis followed my finger and squinted. At what? The kid on the stairs, I said louder. You don't see him? Luis blinked, then shook his head. There's no one there. I started to say something, but a sharp pain bloomed behind my eyes, like a migraine hitting all at once. I stumbled, nearly lost my footing. Luis grabbed my arm. Hey, you good? I nodded, but I was lying, because in the moment I looked away and back again. The boy was gone. That night I went back to the engine room. I know how that sounds. But I needed to know. I needed to prove I wasn't losing my mind. If he was real, if there was someone down there, then maybe it could be explained. I waited until the ship quieted down. After midnight, used my master key card to slip through a few crew-only doors and took the service stairs down, past the laundry level, past storage, until I hit the bottom of the stairwell, deck. 0, the hum down there was louder, deeper. like standing beside a sleeping animal the size of a building. I followed the corridor toward the main engine maintenance access. The lights flickered once, twice, and then I heard it, a voice whispering, "It wants to stop." I spun around. Nothing behind me. I pressed forward, heart pounding, until I reached the generator room door. Huge, steel, locked from the inside. But the small round window in the center, the kind you see in submarine movies, was fogged over. From the inside, something moved past it, just a blur of pale skin and blue fabric. My breath caught. I knocked once, and the window cleared. He was staring back at me. The boy. But this time, his face was wrong. Too long, mouth too wide, and his eyes, pitch black, like oil. He pressed his hand to the glass. I stepped back instinctively, and that's when the door clicked. It was unlocked. I don't remember deciding to open it, but I did. The room inside was boiling, not with heat, with noise. The engine filled every inch of space. A mechanical roar like a beast growling in its sleep, and standing in the center of the room was the boy, still soaking wet. Arms hanging limp and whispering. His voice was layered like more than one person speaking at once. He told me to turn it off, or the ship sinks. I stepped back. "Who told you?" He smiled, not a child's smile. Something else, something older. And then for the first time he raised his hand and pointed. At me. "You." I turned and ran. Out of the room, down the hall, up the stairs. I didn't stop until I hit deck 5. The door slammed shut behind me. And the humming? It stopped. For exactly 3 seconds, the entire ship went silent. Not quieter. Dead. No hum. No air circulation. No pressure underfoot. Just stillness. Then the lights flickered back on, and everything resumed like nothing had happened. But those 3 seconds? They stretched forever. The next day, I woke up to find a letter under my cabin door. Official seal. Cruise line logo. My name typed at the top. Inside, a short message. "You accessed a restricted area in violation of your contract. For your safety and the safety of others, you will be disembarked at the next port and placed on a return flight home. This matter is considered closed. Ship security team." No apology, no mention of the boy, no explanation. I was off the ship within 36 hours. No one from management spoke to me. They didn't even let me collect my full pay. I went home and tried to forget it. Told my friends I quit early. Said the job wasn't for me, but sometimes at night I hear it again. That low hum, that whisper. He told me to turn it off. And 3 nights ago, someone left something outside my apartment door. A blue cruise line crew polo. Still wet. And tucked inside the folded collar was a handwritten note. "It still wants to stop." I pressed the elevator button for deck 14 as a joke. It wasn't even supposed to exist. Anyone who's ever been on a cruise ship knows they skip certain floor numbers like buildings do. No deck 13, no 14. Superstition. Instead, you go from 12 straight to 15. But on the 3rd night of my cruise, I was drunk enough to try it. Standing alone in the aft elevator after too many vodka cranberries, I saw the faint outline of a worn-off button under 15. No label. Just a blank, faded square where something used to be. And for reasons I still can't explain, I pressed it. The elevator stopped. Not abruptly, not in a broken way, but too softly. Like it didn't really arrive, it just paused. The doors slid open. And that's when I realized I had made a mistake. Everything was quiet, no music, no chatter, no distant mechanical hum, just dead, compressed silence. The hallway was dim, not pitch black but underlit, like a hospital wing with half the bulbs burned out. The carpet was soaked. I don't mean a spill, I mean squishing under my shoes with every step, in the air. Heavy. Like walking into a steam room full of mildew and metal. I should have stepped back into the elevator, but I didn't. I walked out. The hallway was short, maybe 10 doors, 5 on each side. None of them had numbers, all of them were closed. At the far end, a green exit sign flickered, barely holding on. I said, "Hello?" out loud. It didn't echo. It didn't sound like anything at all. I walked a little further, heart thudding harder with each step. One of the doors, and third on the left when it was open a crack, just enough to see part of the inside. A bed. Sheets pulled tight, one dim lamp and a mirror facing the door. That's when I saw it, my reflection. But I wasn't standing still. In the mirror, I was smiling. And waving. I wasn't doing either of those things. I stumbled back. The mirror me dropped its hand, tilted its head, and mouthed something I couldn't hear. I ran, turned back toward the elevator. But the doors were closed. No button to call it. I slapped my palm against the metal. Nothing. I turned toward the exit sign. Ran full speed down the hallway. Pushed the bar on the stairwell door and it burst open with a hiss of stale hot air. Inside by pitch-dark concrete steps leading up. Only up, no railings, no lights. I climbed one flight. 210, my legs burned. Finally, on a door marked Deck 10. Wait, Deck 10? I was supposed to be on 14. I pushed through and stepped into a crew storage area. Supplies, mops, locked crates. Nothing else. Behind me, the door slammed shut and disappeared. Gone. Just a blank wall. I made it back to guest areas eventually. Don't even remember how. When I told guest services about it, they said, "There is no Deck 14. I asked about the elevator. The blank button. They just smiled. There are no blank buttons. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed at 3:14 a.m. One notification, a photo. No sender, just an image of that hallway. The same open door, the same mirror. Only this time the reflection wasn't waving. It was walking toward the door, and underneath the photo, one message. Come back up. The first night I heard the screaming, I thought someone had gone overboard. It was around 2:30 a.m. I was sitting on my cabin balcony, half asleep with a drink in my hand, watching the black nothing of the open sea. It was too quiet, the kind of quiet that wraps around you when the ship's motion is calm and the engines settle into that deep low purr. Then it cut through the silence. A scream. Far off, from the water. Not a sudden burst of panic. Not a help me, it was prolonged. A rising, inhuman wail. One that started low and dragged upward like it didn't need to stop for air. I stood up fast, hard in my throat, and leaned over the railing. Nothing. Just ocean. Pitch black. Stretching forever. I looked up and down the ship. No one else seemed to be outside. Not a single other balcony light on. No one moving. No alarms, but I know what I heard. I stayed there another 15 minutes. Nothing else. No more screaming. Eventually I went back inside. Left the lights on. Didn't sleep. The next day I asked one of the crew about it. I kept it casual. Hey, out of curiosity, you guys ever get like sea life sounds? Whales or something? The guy gave me a weird smile. Sometimes, but whales don't come this close to the ship. We're too noisy, I nodded. Right, just heard something weird last night. He paused. What did you hear? I hesitated. Screaming. From the water. Around 2 or 3 a.m., his face changed. Not fear. Just that blank, practiced look I'd already seen from the staff a few times. Like they knew something but weren't allowed to say it. I'm sure it was nothing, he said flatly. Try to get some rest tonight. Don't hang out on the balcony too late. Then he walked away before I could say anything else. Night 2. I stayed inside. Told myself I imagined it, but around the same time, 2:40 a.m., I felt this pressure in my chest. Like something was calling me. I don't know how else to describe it. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't even a sound. Just this pull. I got out of bed and walked straight to the balcony like I was in a trance. Opened the door, listened. Nothing. Then, just as I started to turn back inside, it came again. That scream, this time closer. It sounded female. Sort of, but distorted. Like it was being warped by the ocean itself. Pulled through layers of water and air and pressure. And this time, it wasn't alone. A second scream. Then a third, some in rhythm, some overlapping. Like a chorus building underwater. The sound made me dizzy. My fingers gripped the railing so tight they went numb. I looked down. The water looked wrong, too dark, too still. And then I saw bubbles, a cluster of them, rising in a spiral. like someone or something was circling below, and then a hand, just for a second, pale, reaching, then gone. I backed into my room so fast I hit the dresser, knocked my drink over, locked the balcony door and sat on the floor. Shaking, I didn't sleep. Again. The next morning, I asked the couple in the cabin next to mine if they'd heard anything. They looked surprised. No, the wife said. But he did get up to pee around that time, right? The husband nodded. Yeah, maybe. Didn't hear anything, though. Why? I gave a soft laugh. I think the sea's messing with my head. He shrugged. This far out, you'd be surprised. I considered recording it, leaving my phone out on the balcony. But part of me didn't want proof. Because what if I wasn't imagining it? What if something out there knew I was listening? That night I closed the curtains, put in earbuds, played rain sounds on loop. Still couldn't sleep. I kept imagining the screams, the bubbles, the hand. At 3:13 a.m., my phone vibrated. I took out one earbud. Silence. Then, right behind the balcony door, a whisper. Come closer. Not loud, not desperate. Calm, inviting, like it had always been waiting for me. I stood up and reached for the curtain, but I stopped, because there was a shadow on the other side of the glass. Not a person. Too tall, too narrow, like something was standing outside the railing, hovering over the water. The whisper came again, closer. I stepped back, grabbed the phone. I didn't record, I just whispered, "No," and turned away. The whisper stopped. Next morning, I had a note under my door, no envelope, typed, "Please avoid deck 7 balconies after 2 a.m. for your safety. Do not engage with waterborne anomalies. Ship management." No one else got that note, I asked. They acted like I was making it up. Final night of the cruise. I stayed in the theater with other passengers, watching a bad magic show, just to stay distracted. But around 2:30 a.m., the power flickered, only for a second. But when the lights came back on, a few people had already gotten up to leave, complaining of nausea, pressure in their ears, headaches. That's when the alarms almost went off. We heard the first half of the emergency. Tone, the 3 rising beeps, but then it cut out. Dead. Silence. Then the intercom kicked in. Static. Then that scream. Live. Over. The entire ship, every speaker, every hallway, every deck, that same scream, drawn out, drenched in salt, then cut to black. Power came back 20 minutes later. Crew said it was a test malfunction. But a few people, they didn't come back. No one saw them after that night. When I got home, I Googled the ship, buried in forum threads, and nautical incident reports was one post, years old, from another passenger who sailed the same route. They described exactly what I heard. The screaming, the hand in the water, the whispers. Their post ended with one line. It's not drowning. It's calling. We were supposed to be celebrating. But by the second day in our honeymoon suite, I knew something was wrong with him. Not bad mood wrong. Not tired from travel, wrong. His smile stopped reaching his eyes. He'd stare at the wall for minutes at a time like he was listening to something. And he kept locking the cabin door, even when I was inside with him. We'd been together almost 5 years. He was steady. Funny. The kind of man who held your hand while you cried over dumb shows and always made sure your charger was plugged in. But this wasn't him. Not the man I married. It started before we even left port. We checked into the honeymoon suite, a corner room on deck 9 with ocean views and that soft, fake champagne waiting in a bucket. Everything seemed perfect. But the second we walked in, I felt it. Cold. Not air-conditioned. Not breezy. This chill settled in my bones like stepping into a mausoleum. I even joked about it. Guess no one stayed in here for a while. He didn't laugh, just stared at the bed. The way it was made. Tucked too tight, almost militaristic. Let's go up to the pool, I said. He nodded slowly, like I'd interrupted a thought. That night, I found deep scratches on the inside of the bathroom cabinet door. They were faint but long, parallel, like someone had clawed at it in desperation. I asked him if he saw them. He barely looked up. It's an old ship. Then he went to bed without brushing his teeth. Didn't even change his clothes. The next night, I woke up around 3:20 a.m., not from a noise, from silence. He wasn't next to me. The bed was cold where he should have been. I got up, heart starting to race, found him standing in the dark bathroom, lights off, staring at the mirror, not at himself, at the reflection of the room behind him. His hands were pressed to the counter. His lips were moving, but there was no sound. "Hey," I whispered. "What are you doing?" He didn't flinch. Didn't even seem to hear me. I stepped closer. That's when I noticed it. His nose was bleeding, just a slow, steady drip onto the porcelain sink. He blinked. Finally turned his head. His voice was hoarse. "Did you hear her?" I stepped back. "What?" He wiped his nose and looked at me like he didn't understand the question. Then he smiled. Small. Crooked. "I'm fine." He didn't remember getting up. That's what he told me the next morning. That he didn't remember bleeding, or the mirror, or whispering anything. He laughed like I was making it up, like I was pranking him, but I wasn't. And I could still see the dried blood in the sink, so I stopped pushing. I just watched because the man sleeping next to me, he might have had my husband's face, but he wasn't him anymore. I started noticing small changes first. He began double-checking the door lock every hour. Not just at night, during the day too. Even when we were inside, click, click, tug, jiggle. Then he pushed the dresser in front of the door. He said, "Just in case." In case of what? He wouldn't say. He started ignoring staff. Wouldn't make eye contact with waiters. Didn't speak when our steward came by for turn-down service. And every time we passed a mirror, he'd pause, just for a second, then glance behind us. Like he expected to see someone else standing there. I tried to stay calm, tried to make the trip normal. We went to dinner. I ordered his favorite pasta. He barely touched it. I asked what was wrong. He said, "It's the room, just that." The room, and then he added something else, almost as an afterthought. "I think it remembers who stayed here last." That night, I found something under the bed, a Polaroid, crushed, water-stained. It showed a man and woman in the same room, same wallpaper, same lamp, even the same slightly crooked painting behind the bed. They were smiling, hugging, but someone had scratched the woman's face out. With nails. Not a pen, not scissors. The gouges were ragged. On the back in shaky writing, "Don't let him close the door." I didn't sleep at all. He did. But sometime around 4 a.m., I heard him talking in his sleep, whispers, so low I couldn't make out words, but I swear. At one point it was two voices. One was his, the other was slower. More distant, a woman, gurgling like she was trying to speak underwater. The next morning I tried to leave the room, just to get coffee. The door wouldn't open. The lock was jammed. Deadbolt twisted into the wall like it had been warped. I called the front desk. They said they'd send someone up, but 30 minutes passed, nothing. I called again. They said, "Our records don't show you're in that room." I froze. "What?" "Cabin 921 is listed as vacant, ma'am." "No, I'm in it. Right now." "I'm sorry. We'll escalate it to management." Click. I turned to him. He was sitting on the bed, staring at the Polaroid I'd hidden in my bag. "I dreamed about her," he said softly. "She was sitting right there." He pointed to the corner chair by the window. "Said she never left. Said the ship doesn't like when people leave things behind." I backed up. "You need help." "We both do." He turned slowly, smiled, crooked, same as before. "No one's coming." Later that day, the lights started flickering. The AC stopped. The whole room felt swollen with heat and static, like we were inside something alive. I heard soft tapping from behind the bathroom mirror. Not scratching, tapping. A slow, steady rhythm, like knuckles trying to knock in a message. I grabbed my phone to record. Battery 0%. It had been plugged in all night. I pounded on the door, screamed, cried. Nothing. No. One heard me, but he did, and he said, "You're making her angry." Around 2 a.m., I woke up to him standing above me holding the photo. His eyes were glassy. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. I whispered his name. Nothing. Then he dropped to his knees and whispered in my ear, "I have to stay with her." "You shouldn't have come," I bolted, ran to the bathroom, locked the door, tried the vent, the ceiling, anything. That's when I noticed the mildew pattern above the shower. It looked like a face, smiling. I must have fallen asleep on the bathroom floor. When I woke up, the cabin door was open. He was gone. Suitcase still there. Phone still there. No note. No one in the hallway. Just silence. I ran down to guest services barefoot, crying, shaking. Told them everything. Told them my husband was missing. They looked up our reservation cabin, to unassigned. No one's checked into that room this week, they said. I showed them my key card. They scanned it. It doesn't match any active room. I begged them to check cameras. They said the security system glitched that night. Power failure. No footage from Deck 9 between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. They filed a report, made me sign a waiver, said they'd check the lower decks and inform the Coast Guard. They didn't. I knew that look. That corporate face they put on for passengers losing it. They weren't going to help me. They already knew. When I disembarked 3 days later, my suitcase had been searched. Polaroid was gone. I asked about it. They said I must be mistaken. Photography isn't allowed in private quarters. It's been 4 months. No word from him, no body, no record of our stay. I've tried everything. Lawyers, social media, cruise line PR. No one believes me, but sometimes when I walk past a mirror, I see him. Not next to me, behind me. Just for a second. In the reflection, smiling, crooked, and every now and then, when it's really late, I dream about that room. Cabin 921, the sheets tucked too tight, the dresser pushed against the door, the tapping behind the mirror, and her, sitting in the corner, waiting. It started with an old man collapsing at the dessert bar. I didn't even see it happen. I just heard the scream, sharp, short, from somewhere near the soft serve machine. When I turned around, I saw a small crowd forming. Someone shouted for help. A crew member in a white jacket pushed through with a radio and knelt beside him. My plate was still in my hands, still full. Bacon, fruit, a croissant. I lost my appetite instantly. At first, it didn't feel like a big deal. People collapse on cruises all the time. Dehydration, heat stroke. Some folks fly across the world, eat 4 meals a day, drink twice that, and think they can still walk 10 laps on Deck 5 like they're 25 again. I sat down at a table by the window, waited for the commotion to die down. It didn't. 10 minutes later, a second person collapsed, then a third. Then someone vomited right in the aisle between the omelet station and the carving board. They shut down the buffet right after that. Full lockdown. I watched the staff put up those rolling chrome dividers, the kind they use for VIP events or weddings, across the entire entrance. "No breakfast service at this time," one of the crew said, trying to smile. "Please check the main dining room." But even there, people were whispering, watching each other, pushing plates away. Something wasn't right. I went back to my cabin and turned on the ship's info channel. Nothing. Just the normal cruise announcements. A reminder about sunscreen. A segment about mixology classes. All pre-recorded. But when I flipped to the security channel, the one they say is for emergencies only, it wasn't off. It showed a static message. Health protocol, Zone 3, containment in progress. All non-essential staff to quarters. I didn't know what Zone 3 was, but I was pretty sure it included the buffet. By 3 p.m., the rumors were wild. Norovirus. Food poisoning. Some said someone smuggled edibles on board and spiked the fruit bowls. But the crew? Tight-lipped. No updates, no emails, no captain announcement. People who had been at the buffet that morning, they looked shaken. Most were fine, but they were watching each other, like they were waiting for someone else to drop. I was one of them. I'd eaten there too, same buffet, same fruit. Nothing happened to me. At least, not yet. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the old man, the first one to collapse. He hadn't been carried out. He walked away. I remembered that clearly now. 2 crew members helped him up. And he walked, but nobody saw where he went. At around 2:15 a.m., I got up to get some air, walked the length of deck 5. That's when I saw it. The buffet doors, cracked open. Just barely. No guards, no rope line. I should have ignored it, but I didn't. Inside, it was dark. The food stations were empty, everything cleared away, but the smell lingered, not of food, of metal, like blood, like old steel, and something else, like meat left out too long. I covered my nose and stepped further in. The floor was sticky. My shoes made soft tearing sounds as I walked. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Not mine. Not behind me. Underneath. Beneath the buffet floor. Under the metal panels. A dragging sound. Heavy. Uneven. And then a muffled voice, like someone talking with a full mouth. I turned and left without looking back. Didn't sleep at all. The next morning they reopened the buffet, like nothing happened. Same stations, same layout. But the food? It looked too perfect. Piled just right. Shiny. Like it had been painted with gloss. I took a plate of fruit just to see. Brought it to my table. Cut into a strawberry. Inside, gray, mushy, hollow. Like it had been filled with something, then scooped out. I went back to my room. Took a shower, tried to breathe. When I came out, I had a message on the phone, room-to-room intercom, no caller ID, a voice whispering, "Don't eat the eggs." Click. I didn't eat for the next 24 hours. Not a bite. I skipped lunch. Skipped dinner. Drank water I brought from my own supply and sealed bottles from my luggage. That voice on the phone haunted me. "Don't eat the eggs." I kept playing it over in my head. Who knew my room number? Who was watching me? That night I made a decision. I was going back to the buffet. Not to eat. To see. I waited until after 2 a.m. again, when the halls were dead quiet and the last bars had shut down. I brought a flashlight tucked into my hoodie pocket, and the steak knife I'd taken from the formal dinner table 2 nights earlier, just in case. The buffet doors were locked this time. But the side service door, the one near the staff stairwell, propped open, with a food tray, on purpose. Inside, the lights were dim. Not off, just low enough to feel staged. Like a set waiting for actors. The buffet tables were already prepped. Again, stacks of untouched food, hours before breakfast. No steam, no sound, no signs of kitchen staff, just silence. And that smell again. Rot. Rot covered in citrus and pine-scented cleaner. I moved quickly, sticking to the shadows. Found a door near the back labeled crew-only cold storage prep. It wasn't locked. I slipped inside, walked through a narrow hallway lined with stainless steel carts, stacked trays, sealed bins. At the end was another door, not metal, wood, old, warped, no label. I opened it. Stairs, leading down. That was the first red flag. There shouldn't be anywhere lower than the kitchen. We were already near the bottom. Deck. But these stairs were steep, concrete, damp. Turned on my flashlight, saw drag marks, black, smudged, like something wet had been hauled downward. Repeatedly, I should have turned around instead. I went down. At the bottom was a corridor, bare metal. Exposed piping. Dim red lights overhead. It felt like walking into the guts of the ship. At the end of the hallway was a plastic curtain, like the kind you find in a meat locker. Behind it, a massive open room, cement floor. Makeshift tables. Bright white floodlights overhead and bodies. Not corpses, not that I could prove, but people. Crew, maybe. At least 4 of them, standing motionless in hairnets and aprons, surrounding a long metal table. They were preparing something. Scooping meat into trays, but it wasn't meat. Not beef. Not chicken. It was gray. Stringy. Almost jelly-like. One of them reached down into a cooler, pulled out something wet and long. It looked like a spine. Not a fish spine. Not animal, too large. Too human. I backed away too fast. Kicked a tray by accident. It clanged across the floor. 4 heads snapped in my direction. They didn't speak. They didn't move. just stared and smiled, mouths wide, wet with something dark. Their aprons weren't white. They were stained brown and soaked through. I ran. Didn't care how loud I was. Didn't care what I saw or what chased me. I ran until I hit the stairwell, scrambled up 3 flights, shoved out through the crew laundry entrance, and didn't stop until I was back in my room. Door double locked. I threw up in the sink. I disembarked the next morning without eating. Didn't say a word to the other passengers. Didn't file a report. I just walked off the ship and didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the cruise line. No return address, no signature. Inside was a voucher, free cruise, upgraded suite, and a handwritten note. We hope your next visit to the buffet is more satisfying. Excellent. Let's close the series with a long, slow descent into dread. The message didn't come from a number. No contact info. No thread history. Just a single image. Ryan, standing in our old cruise cabin, same dark blue shirt, same khaki shorts, soaking wet. But his smile was what stopped my heart. It wasn't happy, it was wide. Too wide. Like his face had learned what smiling was supposed to look like. But didn't really feel it. I tried to convince myself it was a hoax. Cruise line error. Deep fake, someone messing with me. But the timestamp, 12:43 a.m., the following night. A message from the future. I stayed awake all night, staring at the screen. At 12:43 exactly, I got another message. This time a video, just 5 seconds long. Ryan, walking down a cruise ship hallway, toward the cabin door, reaching for the handle. Then the screen went black. I barely remembered booking the return cruise. All I know is I had to get back on that ship. Same cruise line. Same route. Same room. Cabin 1044. I told the agent I needed it for closure. They didn't ask questions. In fact, they gave me a discount. The first 2 days were quiet. Too quiet. I avoided the buffets. Barely left my room. Just walked the hallways Ryan and I had once walked together. But it didn't feel the same. The ship was identical, yes. But the energy? Off cabin 1044 still had the same scratch on the desk drawer he'd made with his key. The same dent in the nightstand from when he dropped his water bottle. But it smelled different. Like salt. And mold. Like something that had been wet. Then dried. Over and over again. The third night is when he came back. I woke up to knocking. Soft. Deliberate. Not at the door. At the balcony. I sat up slowly. The curtain fluttered inward. The sliding door was cracked open. I didn't remember opening it. I got out of bed, walked barefoot across the cold floor, my stomach already turning. When I pulled the curtain aside, he was standing there, Ryan soaked, shoes squishing, shirt stuck to his skin, hair plastered to his forehead, but his face, too clean, too still, like a wax figure of him, one that moved. He smiled. "Hey," he said, voice flat. "I missed you." I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. He stepped inside without waiting for an answer. Water dripped onto the floor with every step. "I went for a walk," he said. "Got turned around." "Ryan," I whispered. You fell. I saw you." "No," he interrupted. Calm, firm. "You must have dreamed that." He sat on the bed, water pooling beneath him. "I've been here the whole time." That's when I noticed it. His reflection, in the mirror behind him. It didn't sit. It stood staring straight at me, eyes black, mouth slightly open, a slow ripple of water running down the reflection's neck. But not his. I backed toward the door. He tilted his head. "What's wrong?" "You're not," I croaked. "You're not him." He stood, took one step toward me, and in that moment, just for a flash, and his smile dropped. His face collapsed inward. Lips shriveled. Teeth long and thin. And then, just like that, he was normal again. I fled. Ran to guest services, heart pounding, shaking. Told them someone broke into my cabin. They checked the logs. "You're the only one who accessed it," they said. No other entries. No signs of a second guest. I demanded to see the security footage. They escalated the request. I never heard back. Later that day, I checked the mirror in the bathroom. There was a single, wet handprint on the glass, too high to be mine. That night, I stayed awake. He didn't return. But around 3 a.m., my phone vibrated, one new voicemail. No number. I pressed play, Ryan's voice whispering, "I'm not the first. I'm just what's left. The ocean doesn't drown you. It keeps you. And sometimes it lets you go. But you don't come back alone." I threw the phone across the room. When I retrieved it, the voicemail was gone. No history. No recording. The final day of the cruise, I made a choice. I went back to the deck where he'd fallen, stood at the same railing, same time. Wind sharp against my skin, I leaned over and I looked down and I saw it. A face, floating just beneath the surface. Mine. Mouth open, eyes wide, screaming. I backed away. Collapsed to the ground. A crew member rushed over. "You all right?" he asked. I saw... He cut me off gently. "You shouldn't look too long." Then he helped me up and walked away whistling. The tune? The same one Ryan used to hum while brushing his teeth. I disembarked the next morning, alone, again. But as I walked off the gangway, I saw something written in the condensation on the inside of my cabin window. One sentence, 5 words. "This time, it's your turn. Thanks for the clarification." Since story narrate Lost at Sea, then found on board was designed to be 8,000 words across 2 parts, and you're now requesting a part 3, 3,000 words. I'll extend the story into a third and final act, deepening the mystery and ending on an even darker, more layered note. It didn't end when I left the ship. That was just the part they let me see. I flew home the next day. I slept for almost 14 hours straight. I tried to believe it was over, that I was just traumatized, grieving, hallucinating maybe. But then I started seeing him. The first time I was in the grocery store, frozen aisle, music playing overhead. I turned to grab a bag of peas and saw a man standing by the seafood counter. Tall, dark hair, navy windbreaker, Ryan's windbreaker. I stepped closer, my stomach twisted, same haircut, same posture. But when he turned, I froze. It wasn't Ryan, too pale, skin slightly sagging, and the eyes no recognition, just emptiness, like someone wearing a face they didn't quite fit. A week later, I got a text from Ryan. "I'm still waiting in the room." It came from my own number. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I started researching. I found a forum, long buried, barely indexed, about anomalous return cases at sea. Not ghosts. Not conspiracy theories, people who came back. Wrong. One woman in 2008 lost her daughter on a Mediterranean cruise, drowned in a pool. Witnesses saw it. The body was recovered. But a day later, the same girl showed up at breakfast, dry, calm, eating toast. She didn't recognize her parents. She said her name was Ella. Their daughter's name was Sarah. She wore the same clothes, same scar on her chin. They called her by name. She just smiled and said, "She left me behind. I was the next one." It gets worse. Some people who witness these returns, they start to change too, forget details, hear voices, or worse, start remembering things they never lived, like pieces of the other version bleeding into them. 2 nights ago, I found something under my bed. A towel animal. Same kind the stewards make. But this one was soaked, still dripping, wrapped around a photo, me, standing on the deck of the ship, smiling, and Ryan behind me. But the timestamp was yesterday. The cruise was over, but the ship wasn't. That night, I heard the balcony door creak open from inside my own apartment, but I don't have a balcony, just a window. I walked into the living room, slowly. There was seawater on the floor, footprints, wet, bare, leading from the window to the hallway. And into my bedroom. I didn't go in. I left, took my phone, got in my car, drove. I didn't even grab shoes, just drove until sunrise. When I finally came home, he was sitting on the edge of the bed, soaking wet, smiling, but not Ryan. I knew that now. This version of him. He was wearing my face. He stood, spoke in my voice. They needed one more. "You got out, but not all of you." I ran. I don't know how long I'll be gone this time, but if you're reading this, if you ever lose someone at sea and they come back, don't hug them, don't talk to them, don't let them in, because they're not returning, they're replacing.